How do you find the will to fight back against the world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
Welcome to another edition of the Tactical Empire. I'm joined by Shawn here again. Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, what's happening? It's the end of another weekend, which means my left foot is painted red toenails and my right foot is pink.
There you go.
We talk about it like every 4 weeks. It's a different color.
It's girl dad stuff. That happens.
We're jamming. How are you?
Oh man, I am great, but a little overwhelmed, I'll be honest. And those of you that don't know, I was texting Shawn 5 minutes ago, and I was supposed to be on this podcast already, and I was just fucking off because I totally got my schedule messed up and thought I was supposed to be here in 30 minutes. And so here we are. But yeah, we got a lot of balls in the air. I was having a phone call about a refinance. I'm subdividing lots right now. And so I'm on the phone with the city about that and trying to figure out an appraisal I got back that they told me my apartment had dropped 9% in value on the appraisal we got last week, which it doesn't meet the market. So we're gonna protest it and give them some comps and show them that wasn't the case. But no big deal there. I'm trying to get a truck. So I'm on the phone with the dealership. They want me to come in. I was like, no, I'm not coming in. Find me the truck and I'll buy it and you can bring it to my house. And so so many balls, dude. So many balls.
All right. Well, that's the life. That's the life that you live. So we did this weekend, we did the Jeff Smith breakfast special. We bought cottage cheese for the first time and my wife made a egg and cottage cheese scrambled bake with onions and peppers in it. I had it for breakfast this morning, but I was like, I don't think Jeff actually mixes it and bakes it. I think he just makes the eggs and mixes is that how you do it?
Yeah. I just dump it in.
It's not how we did it.
I do ground venison because ground venison's like my go-to because I have a freezer full of deer that we've hunted and nilgai. But ground venison and, taco seasoning. I do 4 to 6 pounds of that every single week. And so I just heat a bowl of ground venison and then I put 3 eggs on top of that. And then I put cottage cheese on top of that. So it's like 150 grams of protein. And it makes my wife about throw up, by the way.
Yeah.
Mixer.
I can imagine. I like the way that my wife made it. But I forgot how good cottage cheese was just by itself. So I got some blueberries and that's been my post-breakfast snack is the cottage cheese and blueberries for a whopping 24 hours. But you know how you like your main 3 meals are your main 3 meals. And then every now and again, I got to change my like midday snacks out. And so now I'll probably be on this cottage cheese and fruit kick for the next 2 months. And then I'll switch it.
You can't beat that 2% cottage cheese from a macro standpoint. It is loaded with protein.
Well, same with the Oikos. I mean, we go through the 23 gram Oikos yogurt like it's going out of style in my house. And went into Costco to buy more Fairlifes and they didn't have them. So I had to go with Slate chocolate milk and muscle milk, which is a little bit less on the protein side, but still gotta grab what you can from the Costco when they have it on the shelf.
Yeah, load up on your protein, folks.
I'll pay more for the pre-mix stuff because I just can't. Dude, I'm not in college anymore. I'm not mixing chocolate powder in water to save a little bit of money. So I know I'm dropping way too much money on these protein drinks, but that's how it is.
Absolutely.
All right, now miracle topic for the day, since Jeff never knows. We dropped the podcast episode this morning that we recorded last week. Great episode talking about health and fitness and how it's relevant to your success and your productivity. And at the end of the day, your wealth building, your overall, we didn't say the word happiness, but it's come into mind right now, just happiness with life, like progressing forward. And, but I think we made a mistake. In the title of the podcast, we put the dreaded word balancing. And without even this is why I say it's a mistake, because I had this topic planned for after that topic. And I was going, because it was going to be an extension of that podcast. It's working out perfectly because it was going to be an extension of that podcast. And I was going to float you the question, Jeff, talk to me about the classic work-life balance and give me your opinion on that. And then we dropped this podcast episode this morning, and it's got the word balancing in there. So now it's going to be our rebuttal to just the overall psychology and mindset around needing to find this fucking balance in life. And so here I am. I'm going to toss the ball over on your side. Talk to us about balance, work-life balance.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
That's
it doesn't
right.
exist at all. And so
end of episode.
Yeah. I mean, I prefer the term optimization and expansion in every area. And so what I found works for me more than anything is that like just evaluating and assessing and being honest with like where you're at on these areas, right? Because like I've gone through cycles in life where I've worked very hard and tried to produce a lot and then left everything else to the wayside, had a shitty marriage, wasn't the father I wanted to be, whatever. And I think that that's easy to do from time to time because like it's harder work to be a better husband and be a father that you have no idea about. Like business is easier for me than being a dad. That's for sure. And so, so like there's a lot of challenging aspects to that. I think most men can probably relate to that because it's like, it's an emotional thing. It's not a fucking binary thing with like just economics or numbers. And so the regards to balance, I think balance is probably not what you really want to be achieving. So the people that talk about that all the time are probably missing the mark on actually how they want to be speaking about what they're defining. For me, I'm looking for like expansion in every area. I want improvement in every area. I want to seek maximum potential in every area. And so like, I think with balance, it tends to lead you to status quo. That thought process leads me to status quo. Like, okay, I've got to pull off the gas here to level out the scale, if you will. And so, because a scale that is equal, right, is two sides that are at zero or whatever, right? And so, as opposed to piling on in every single area, that's why I think the most effective thing that I've found is utilizing kind of those 4 F's that we use, which is fitness, family, freedom, and finances. And we've done episodes on like what freedom means. It's mindset and like overall fulfillment with what you're doing, if you will. But also the amount of control that you have over your life and autonomy. But evaluating those areas and asking very specific and pointed questions to figure out like where you're at in each of those areas, which the byproduct of that is more balance, but it brings awareness to areas that need work. And so like I work as hard as I can at every area that I'm focused on. And so I think the most productive people in the world are the people that are able to shift their focus quickly from one thing to another while focusing directly on that and intently on that item. So if that's your family, can you disconnect and be focused on your family? And if you're focused on your business or leadership, are you plugged in? Are you dialed in? Or are you thinking about other shit that's going on? Right. And so while we have talked in the past about presence and like being able to work at that focus, that's like building muscle, right? And so I don't know where you wanted me to go with that, but like I think balance is kind of off the mark. And so what you want to really do is integration. So how can I have the best life I want to have? How can I be the best husband I can be? How can I make the most fucking money I can make? How can I be the best dad I can possibly be? And for us, I think when we tried to not integrate everything as business owners, that's when things went off the rails, quite frankly, because everything then gets siloed and tabled for later. Like you're tried to behave in a different way that is unnatural. Now, as opposed to what we do now, which is like everything is mashed together. kind of like the eggs I was talking about earlier.
Mhm.
And it's not always pretty. But it really allows us to spend a tremendous amount of time doing the things that we love, which is spending time with our family. Um, Communication in our relationship has to improve. Business is right there with it. And so, I mean, I think you should seek out that integration so that you can spend more time doing everything you love congruently.
Well, I had an idea of what I was going to say, but what you just said kind of altered I'm a very visual guy. So when you use the description of, the actual scale, when it's balanced, it's weighed out at 0, that kind of just took my brain and ran with it. So I'm going to brain dump here for a second. And it's like,
Do it.
that makes so much sense. Like I've actually never thought, I know I don't like the word balance. Like I knew that just from day one. Like I didn't understand this work-life balance. Because I think there's different times when you have to go harder in different areas, depending on the actual context of your situation. And that may be for 30 days straight, 90 days straight, or it just may be, 2 days out of the week is my hard working day and 2 days is more of my rest, relaxation, family time. Or you can find a way to integrate it on a 24/7 scale. I like that. But I think it's a little different for everyone. But when you said the scale is balanced at 0, my mind actually went right to, and not to change the topic, but this whole, in terms of money, it was like, you have to diversify to win. It's like, well, no, diversification is a hedging strategy that you do after the fact. And that came to mind when you said the balance is 0. Like if you're actually trying to find balance, you're not winning at shit. You're kind of just status quo, ho hum, very average. And we've talked about how average in the world right now is not a good place to be. But Jeff, when I was a high school teacher trying to build my gym business, I was, just studying a lot of stuff. I always study, but like I was following some of the big time guys that were up and coming in, and I found this quote by Jeff Bezos, and it's not a verbatim quote here, but he kind of talked about how people shouldn't aim for balance; they should aim for harmony. And I have it pulled up here. He said, like, if I'm happy at home, I'll go to work energized. If I'm happy at work, I'm going to come home energized. And I remember, I don't see it on the quote here that I tried to pull up, but when I remember thinking back and when I saw that, like the harmony doesn't, that word, I don't use that word. It doesn't connect with me, but it came back to flow. To me, like when I'm moving to progress in all these areas, I should flow from one thing to another. And I think the word flow connects to your word of integration. And I think it means more to you because you homeschool your kids. So your kids are involved in all the things that you guys do. And so you guys are truly like integrated, where I send my kids to daycare and private school, and then I go do my shit. But like I should flow from this podcast episode to my next meeting, flow to the daddy pickup line at school, flow to pick up my son, flow to the oh my goodness, the park to play with my kids, and then flow home for dinner, and then flow to my daughter's martial arts. It seems like a lot when you look at my schedule, but it's really just taking one thing from another. And I like that a lot. But like, I think I want to hear your take on this, because we have this give it 110% mentality, because we have this, and we talk about this from an investment standpoint too. Like, you don't need to be an A+ student to get started on your investments. You just need to be a C student. You need to get 50 to 60% of the way there. And I think this is why people, even though we live in, quote, the richest country in the world, and there's no better time to live than today, technically speaking, when you're looking at the macro of everything, most people listening to this have a nice house that is climate controlled, and they have access to food, and they have money in the bank, right? Like, that's better than a lot of people in the world today. And it's better than a lot of people in the past. But because we have this 110% all or nothing mentality, because we have this, we have to know everything and everything has to be perfect. Like, trying to strive for that A+ is going to hold you back, actually, where I hear you say, hey, I'm trying to optimize. I'm trying to be good in everything. But I think you would agree that you're not the best in the world at all these things. You're trying to be better than you were yesterday. You're trying to get better 1% or 0.1% every day or every week, however you want to describe that articulately. But like, I'm just trying to be pretty damn good. Like right now, I'm going to try and be a pretty damn good dad tonight. I'm going to try and be pretty damn good on this podcast. Hopefully not confuse people, not talking in circles, but I'm going to be trying to be a pretty damn good, mentor here in 2 hours. I'm going to be, and I'm going to learn something from that meeting. I'm going to learn something from that interaction with my child to make me better for the next one. But I'm not going to beat myself up for like making a mistake. And I'm certainly not going to hold myself back from taking risks because I'm not an A+ student in any of these things. Am I trying to get better? Yes. Am I trying to be perfect? Not today, not long term. And am I trying to balance things and make sure that I have 2 hours at work and then 2 hours at home and 2 hours at work and 2 hours at home and 2 hours of sleep? No. Like some days I'm going to work way more. Some days I'm going to be at home way more. Some days I'm going to rest way more. And like right now, for my wife speaking, like my wife's going a lot harder at work right now than she has in the past 12 years. And like there was a 7-day span, like 2 to 3 weeks ago, where it kind of took me by surprise because I wasn't used to her getting home just a little bit later. I wasn't used to having the kids by myself, 2 nights back to back because she had dinners with doctors. Like, and it kind of threw me off because I was used to our flow, right? It kind of threw off the flow. It didn't throw off the balance, it just flew off the flow. And so, I was a little frustrated for a couple of days, but then it was like, okay, Shawn, like let me reprogram my mind. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to be good with my kids when I'm with them. And if my wife needs to go a little bit harder at work right now, then so be it. So be it. And as long as it's not causing strife anywhere else, like we're good. Cause I've been there. I've done that in my 20s. I was, luckily we didn't have kids when I was 24 trying to build a business. So, I really like Bezos's, hey, this is harmony. This is not balance. This is a circle is another phrase that he said. It's like, you're not talking about work-life balance. You're talking about work-life as a circle. Like you should just go around and around, flow from one thing to another. And it should all be, we talk about stacking. Your investment strategy should be stacked. That's why I don't like diversification. I think whatever your foundation is, that should play into your next level. And then whatever that money's in should play into the next level. That's why I talk like to our people. They're like, Shawn, you do so many different things. You have life insurance, you have Airbnbs, you have commercial building, you mentor. I'm like, no, like all of this actually is connected. Yep. From my Facebook post, you might not see it, but it is all connected because all of it plays on top of the other thing and it all complements the other things.
Yeah. I think you made the point you made that was most appealing to me is that like really you're just focused on doing your own thing, and you should be, because like being the best in the world, who the fuck defines that?
Yeah,
at anything.
And there's only one person that can be the best in the world. Like,
Truly,
it's not going to be you.
But ultimately, why would you even get hung up on that?
Sure.
And so like, because that doesn't matter. I mean, we talk about comparison being the thief of joy or whatever, right? And we're stuck in this social media world that we live in. And so like you're constantly inundated with who's doing what. So-and-so's moving faster than me. So-and-so has more money than me. Their business is bigger than me. And like people get too caught up in the comparison game when what really matters is the improvement on your particular scoreboard on a daily basis. And that is it. So when you say like you need to make your deposits or whatever on the compounding interest side of things, when you're talking about investments, I look at my whole life like that. And so like imagine taking $1 and putting it in your savings account. That's all like whatever your mindset is and what speaks to you, like in math and money, that speaks to me and works for me. So like I can understand that compounding effect of that, but that works with your fitness, that works with your relationships, that works with your parenting, it works with everything. And then so if you're there watching your scoreboard, did you make your deposits? That's why the critical tasks that we do are so important. Like, okay, like you feel like you have a million things to do. And I do. I have a million things to do, but I can assure you they'll never be done, ever. Like, I'll never run out of things to do. So am I going to like abdicate my responsibility as a parent that today or not spend time or throw the ball with my son because I think I'm going to finish my list? I think that's short-sighted. And so the thing that you learn over time is that you have to do this stuff for a very long period of time. And then like all you're looking for is improvement. You're not looking for perfection by any means. And so like these people that try to be balanced and like sit around and do yoga for 2 hours or whatever the hell they're doing. Like you see this with like out of control morning routines and stuff like that. And ultimately, I would tell every single person that's really focused on their balance and their morning routine or whatever the fuck they do, feng shui or whatever, like if you did the 3 most important things you could do for the day before you did anything else, you can spend all your time getting balanced. And like, that's how things are done. Like, you have to give yourself a clear list of things that are meaningful, that are going to move those areas forward. And then you have to touch every other area of your life and understand that, like, that's the way things are done. Like, so if you've got to go pick up your kids at 3:30 in the afternoon, you need to front load your schedule so you can have that off the plate and be done with it, so you can close it before you go get your kids. Otherwise, the phone's going to be ringing. You're going to be preoccupied with thinking about those things you didn't do. And so there's just simple framework. And like, I think of it as like scaffolding. Like, you put scaffolding up around a building to paint it or build it or whatever, right? And like, that's all we're doing. We're building a structure around the building that we're constructing. And that structure keeps you on your path. And that structure for me is like a checklist of shit I do. I've got 12 things that I do every single day, and like, or that I attempt to do. I won't even lie to you and say I do them every single day.
Sure.
I don't. Like, I may be 83% one month. And so I review my data and I look and I say, man, I should get up to 90% next month. What's that going to look like? Or if I'm winning big and shit just keeps going right for me, I can look back and say, well, what am I doing? Okay, I'm at 95 fucking percent hitting those numbers. Like, there's a direct correlation between like the scaffolding that I built for myself. Like, I talk about it as keeping it in the rails too. Like, what keeps you in the rails. It's the same type of thing. You just have to find your structure, and it takes a long time, because you have to test and audit and figure it out. So like, it took me years to figure out what works for me. But like, I can't slap it on your desk and say, hey, Shawn, this is the fucking recipe for productivity. You're going to kick ass. And like, I can just guide you and say, these are the things that I tested, and this is what worked for me. Right.
I think, yes, go ahead. Finish that thought.
No, where are you at on it?
I just think in this society, people think everything is urgent as fuck, and they're wrong. So just like you're saying, scaffolding, and I think of the guardrail thing, right? Where's my left limit and where's my right limit? And let me stay on this highway. Because once I'm on the right highway, I can go as fast or as slow as I want to go. But the second I get outside those guardrails, there's going to be a fucking accident. But I think people, if they truly audit the things that they're saying yes to, they're saying yes to way too many things. And these aren't big things, guys. Like, the little things that you're saying yes to are small tasks that you don't need to say yes to. They are not urgent, and they're taking so much physical and mental energy and attention away from your big three. Whatever those three big tasks are, it might be two, might be four. Pick your number. Big three every single day. What are your? But it's because most people don't know what their goals are either. They don't have a vision for the future. They're just showing up to work and doing their 9 to 5, whether they're a business owner or an employee or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, they get into these routines, they get into these ruts, and they stop questioning the things that are actually moving the needle, or they're afraid to offload these things that they've always done that someone else could do 80% as well or better, and work on the next level, work on the next layer. So I do like the the two matrices that I like, that kind of helped me solidify the things that I needed to start saying hell yes to. And if it wasn't a hell yes, then it was a hell no, was Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time matrix. And then the Eisenhower matrix. So, you know, Dan Martell's stuff, basically, I wanted to be working in the quadrants that either make me happy and no money right now, and or make me money and make me happy. Everything else needed to become a hell no. And then the Eisenhower matrix, it was actually solidifying the things that were urgent and important versus important, not urgent, versus urgent, not important, versus not important, not urgent. And a lot of people are just flying by their pants, working on things that are labeled urgent, regardless if they're important or not. And so when I overlaid those two matrices with the things that I was actually doing on a regular basis, 1, I started making more progress. 2, I wasn't burnt out. And 3, I was working in my zone of genius. And guess what? Like, things started moving for me in my life. And that didn't mean everything looked hunky dory, right? Like, know, a month ago, I closed down my gym business. Like, that wasn't a very attractive, sexy time in my life 30 days ago, right? Like, as pretty shitty. Right. But that is what I had to do to start working on things that were actually moving my life forward. And like, people will take your statement about focusing on you, and it's such a selfish statement. It's like, well, what else are you going to fucking do? Like, you're going to live 77 years on average. And most of the people listening to the podcast are either in their 30s, 40s, or 50s. You don't have that much time. So what? You're just going to keep doing shit that isn't firing you up. And you know something's off because you're complaining that you don't have this work-life. If you're complaining that you don't have work-life balance, regardless if you believe in balance or not, like, something's off. Yep. You're doing things that you don't enjoy. You're doing things that aren't serving you, aren't serving your mission, aren't serving your family. Certainly probably not making the money that you want to make, or it is, but it's at the detriment of the other things that you say are more important. And so that's just where I'm at with it, man. You're saying yes to too many things. If it's not a hell yes, it should be a hell no. And it's not as easy as flipping the switch. Like this was, like you said, it's a couple year process for me. Yeah. But I needed to become aware first, number one. Number two, I actually had to start putting it in practice and saying no to having coffee meetings with people that, one, weren't in alignment with the things that I was trying to do. Two, didn't think I could help them. Or three, they would actually never pay for my services anyways. Yeah. Well, Shawn, you should just help people. I can't help everyone, but I tried. I fucking tried. And that's why I owned a gym for 12 years when I probably should have only owned it for 9.5. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That story keeps coming up, telling it for everybody.
Well, just so many lessons to be learned, regardless if you ever owned a gym before. It's just like, that's that's a chapter in our book, both for you and me.
But I think that, like, that goes back to kind of where I was gonna say, like, people focus on balance, right? But they're unwilling to go deep on themselves and really answer some of the tough questions, right? Because some people that act like they're too busy like, I could evaluate their schedule instantly and carve out hours of a day that I could give them back. And that's because their priorities are maybe off. Like, do you watch Netflix? Do you watch sports? Do you hang out with your buddies? And like, if so, then like, there's time, right? So like, where do your priorities lie, and what's important to you is part of where that is. But like, I mean, I like what you talked about, Dan Martell's matrix and things like that, because those are filters that you should be running your things through, like your decision-making process through. But oftentimes what we get in is the pain that we know is the pain that we're willing to accept. And so when you talk about making change is scary. And so change can bring along, like, this is why people work in jobs they hate. They stay in careers they hate. I argue with people all the time that built these businesses that won't get rid of their business because it's their baby or whatever. And like, what you don't, but it's become this like albatross or an anchor holding them back to the next level of what they could be doing. And that takes some really deep soul searching as well. Like, what you have to ask yourself, why? Like, it's the same type of thing. If you have any sort of addiction or any sort of like time wasting activities that you're doing, you need to be evaluating them and figuring out why. Like, are you depressed? Like, why are you scrolling social media all the time? How does it make you feel? Like, should you be doing something else? Like, how are you using your time in a productive manner? Like, I mean, I think that's more important. Optimizing your fucking time in a day is how you create this perception of balance. And because that is being intentional with your minutes. And like, that's where people miss the focus. They just allow the day to attack them. And so, I mean, you see this with people we mentored in the gym space for a really long time specifically, but like, every entrepreneur I've ever dealt with usually deals with this at the beginning, which is they show up in a reactionary manner because they have no fucking plan. They just start dealing with the inbox or the emails and like, okay, we go unlock the door, we go into the business, and then what's on our plate for the day? Oh, it's complaint after complaint after complaint, or like the fucking toilet's leaking, or like, here's the bills on my desk. That's reactionary. You can never get ahead that way because, like I said earlier in the day, or earlier in this conversation, like I'm never going to run out of things to do. You're also never going to run out of fires to put out. So if you are only a firefighter, you will only fight fires, and you will never grow your business into the life or the legacy that you want to leave, or like you will never have what you want by not focusing on making deliberate, intentional, like gains towards that direction or that life that you want. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we're hitting our 30-minute mark here, but there was something I wanted to say earlier, and then you kind of reinforced it again here. And you talked about how you just focused on the business at the detriment of everything else, and people need to go internal. So let me, last thing I want to say, and if there's anything else you want to say, feel free to chime back in. I think this is the difference between Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way, and Ego is the Enemy. I'll tell you right now, The Obstacle is the Way is the first like stoic book that I ever read. And it was the first one from Ryan Holiday, certainly. And I loved it. I loved it. Oh yeah. All these obstacles, and I'm building a business, all these things that are external outside of who I didn't think of it that way, but I was like, yeah, all this shit that I'm dealing with, all this shit that I work through. Hell yeah. I'm going to get through all of it. And then I'm going to fucking make it. And I got through some shit, and I still wasn't made. I still wasn't there. And then he comes out with this other book, Ego is the Enemy. I remember reading through it. I went to like this little gym business seminar in New Jersey, and I was sitting at a coffee shop reading through it. And I was like, why am I hating this book more than the first one? Because I love how Ryan Holiday writes. I love the structure of his books. It's super simple, right? Like, and dumbing it down for me, like I'm in first grade. He didn't try and overdo it, right? And I was like, why do I hate this book? And hate's a strong word, but like, why am I struggling with this book?
Yep.
Because it was internal. It was ego is the enemy. And that was a huge light bulb for me. It was like, oh shit, I could handle all this external stuff, but if I'm not making me better, if I'm not optimizing me, if I'm not trying to be a good human, this is why I have Marcus Aurelius tattooed on my forearm, because my favorite stoic quote is like, let's stop arguing about what a good man is and be one. Well, once you start thinking that way, it's not about what's happening in the world that's making you a bad man. It's about what's happening inside of your head and what you're doing with your hands and your actions that are making you a good man or not. And there's no argument. There's no debate to be had there. Like, you just know a good man when you see one. And I was probably 26, 27 when I read that book. And that's when I switched from consuming externally focused content on how to solve problems to focusing on internally solving my own problems. And that's a big change. And I hope someone listening to this can recognize that, whether or not you read those books. Both are some of my top 10 favorite books right there. The Obstacle is the Way and Ego is the Enemy. But I definitely struggled more with Ego is the Enemy because it was about me. It wasn't about the problems the world throws at me.
Yeah. Man, that's heady shit though. Like because it goes all the way back to like managing your actual even thoughts, and then like
still
analyzing and assessing your thoughts and your feelings and understanding like so that you can then manage your thoughts. Because just like the news or these negative inputs we allow into our external world, like it all starts between our ears, and we can either negatively or positively impact our decision-making processes, our actions, everything else. So yeah, that was some fucking next level stuff to leave them with.
Boom.
But
let's go. We'll take them. Yeah. We'll take it easy on them on the next podcast episode. We promise.
But that's true though. Cause like going back to what I said about like, are you sedating yourself with mundane activities like scrolling or watching TV or doing things that you know are just time wasters? And like, you need to catch yourself in the act on those and say, why am I doing this? Like, am I feeling off? Am I not feeling right about like how I'm presenting myself or what I'm getting done or my productivity, like all that stuff? Like, we've all had our moments of being like not our best selves in those situations. And so like it starts with just that level of awareness, admission, and then moving forward, like putting a stake in the ground. Like, this is where I'm at. This is as far backwards as I'm going. And now we're going to improve it. right? So guys, if you want more information or you want more time with Shawn and I, ask questions, throw up podcast topics, join our free Facebook community, the Tactical Empire community. See us in there, hop on Instagram. Our handles are on the screen. Follow our YouTube channel. We put a bunch of content out there. Like and subscribe if you will. Suggest some topics. We're here for you guys. We're trying to provide more value for what you're looking for and what you'd like to listen to.
All right, y'all. If you're going to binge anything, binge our stuff, because there's a big difference between entertainment and escapism. So you're probably falling down the rabbit hole of escapism where we're trying to entertain you and give you a little bit of value. But no, guys, we appreciate your attention if you made it this far. So give us some feedback. We appreciate all of you.